Hi guys, Jen here with Astrology and Earth Magic. Thanks for checking in. Just gonna give you a little astrological wisdom to guide us through our upcoming new moon in the sign of Scorpio. This is going to be next Thursday, and that is the 20th of November at about 1:47 Eastern Standard Time. And it's edging on those last degrees of Scorpio. So it's going to be at 28 degrees, 11 minutes. So really getting intense there. So with this new moon, expect to face those things that you've chosen to ignore a long time. Now, this is going to be like a stop lying to yourself and face the facts. It's going to be those hard truths really about yourself and things that might be hard to come to grips with, but once you do, it will be better in the long run. You can use these experiences, no matter how difficult they are, just to to face them and use them for a positive future moving forward. So this has two grand kites in it that are tied together. So they're tied together and they aren't able to really start flying as of yet. We'll get into all of that. So there's something in you that is tying you back, that's tying you down, that's making you unable to really start to get those ideas flying and get those ideas soaring. And so here's how we're going to talk about, how we're going to be able to work that out. So, I know it's hard to kind of face these facts, especially when they're about yourself, when you don't want to think, okay, so maybe, I didn't know this. Maybe I wasn't right about this, but these are the facts that this is forcing us to face. Maybe there's things in your life that are based on untruths or things that you maybe omit a little bit of the truth. So maybe, not kind of living a lie, but kind of not, being super forthcoming with things, maybe in relationships perhaps, which is sometimes why we keep hiding these skeletons, because once we bring them out, it's like, why didn't I ever hear about this before? Why didn't I realize this before? But again, we can use these to really just be ourselves, to stop hiding things, to stop feeling like we're not being genuine to ourselves as well. And really, it can benefit. Through the discomfort, it can be worth it all in the end. Now, if you would like to follow along with this, I did put the chart in the beginning of the video. So if you want to go ahead and maybe rewind, take a screenshot of that. But I'll explain it all anyway. So if you are into, kind of knowing what charts look like, you're going to be able to see right from that chart those two kites in there and those aspect patterns that create those kites. One that is kind of going up towards the sky, and then one that's kind of laying down, and they're really built off the same thing. So it's kind of that intertwining that isn't letting them, be free and fly. So I hope you can see it. If not, again, I'll explain it all to you. So we have a lot going on in this chart that we have to work with, especially, as far as positive aspects go. I think it is quite a positive chart ultimately. But again, like I said, all of these positive things, they don't just fall in your lap. And when there's a grand trine, you think, oh, it's going to be so great and everything's going to come so easy, and I'm going to win the lottery. But you have to put the work in. It's kind of just that guide that says if you put the work in, maybe things will start to happen for you. This new moon itself is conjunct Mercury, and it's really tight at the time of the new moon. It's a 16-minute orb, so it's really tight, less than a degree. Both of these now are in opposite to Uranus. So, we have both Uranus and Mercury also going retrograde. So what does that mean? How does that play in, and how does that change things up a little bit? We have the freedom to think and say what we want, but it can be also contradictive by what is actually could be harmful. So it's kind of rethinking things, and things that you might say that could be harmful to ourselves or to others, or ideas, or ways of thinking that could be harmful as well. So you might wrestle with these thoughts a little bit and with this ideologies a little bit. And, sometimes that's a good thing, that you are rethinking things, especially, if you are putting things in an email form, if you're posting things on the internet, everything does come back to bite you in the end if you're saying nasty stuff. So, you always want to think before you hit the send button and give it a little thought first. Is this really something that I want people to think about me? So again, it's that introspective. It's that, is this really what I believe, before you kind of put that thought out there. Jupiter in Cancer will be trying to Saturn in Pisces, and this is also a very close orb. So this is within 11 minutes. So all this is really tight, and both are sextile to Uranus. So we have that top peak where Uranus is sextile to Jupiter and Saturn, and then on the bottom here we have the bottom of the kite, which is that Mercury and new moon conjunction. So you kind of see how that, and then so though the new moon and Mercury, and you'll see, are opposite, then they have the sextile and then the trines. So again, they're both it creates a right side up. This is the right side up grand kite in water that you see in the chart if you check that out in the beginning of the video. Okay, I guess my cat's just gonna walk right through. So this topped off by Uranus in that last degree of Taurus, just moving back into Taurus, and it is really chomping at the bit to get off the ground. But again, something's holding it back, and something's kind of tying it back, pulling the reins, tying its kite strings back. But also it's in retrograde. So it moved back into Taurus purposely, because it is saying the groundwork is not ready. That something is holding us back, something is unfinished, and if there's unfinished business that we have to kind of attend to. Okay, I'm gonna get beamed down before he knocks everything over. Sorry about that. So something's holding us back, and you might be feeling like that. Like you might be feeling like you're tied down, like you want to do something, but there's so much that's holding you back, and you just don't feel like you can do it. You're eager, overly eager to put these thoughts, actions, words, whatever's going on in your head and your plans into action. But the retrograde is telling us you need to do the work first. You need to do this before you do that. I'm sure you've noticed also, as of late, and if you check like the older videos, we have a lot of grand kites and grand trines that are coming up. And these are these aspect patterns that have been coming up as of late. And it's because of where the outer planets are falling and how they're interacting with each other. And so and they move really slow. So they're kind of gonna have those patterns continue for a while. That just goes to show that now my other cat's up here. Say, hi, Pickle. Okay, hopefully that's it. So these aspect patterns are really telling us, put the work in again, and you're going to have a good outcome. And ultimately, we've known about 2025 for years. Astrologers have been talking about it for years. This is kind of the catalyst for change, and there's going to be kind of a different life on the other side. And this is kind of getting us prepared for it. So it's not happening yet. So we just have to keep building. We have to keep building, and we have to keep preparing. We have to prepare ourselves in a personal way and prepare pretty much, on a larger scale as well. So these grand kites, they're not something that you see all the time. They aren't just like, every other, new moon, full moon, you're going to get these aspect patterns. This is something that's showing us that there is promise on that horizon, and just we have to know when the time is right. And after things have been laid down, like with Uranus back in Taurus, again, it's encourages us to really work on that foundation. It's last hurrah in Taurus. So, and it's kind of like before you kind of do the big reveal, you have to make sure everything is right. And I think that's on a personal level. And I also think, of course, because these are all our outer planets that are doing all these big changes, this is on a global scale. So, our minds could be blown with some things that are coming up that we have to rethink the way we've thought. We see this very obviously, again, looking at the chart, we see that grand kite. Makes you think of air, even though it is a water kite. It's in water. It's, the kite's tied, their strings tied together. One's laying on its side, one's trying to take off. And it just really, when you're trying to get something done and you have this knot and you have to really just get into it and just work on it to try and just get it to release. And that's kind of what we need to do inside of us. Just dig down deep within ourselves. Of course, in true Scorpio fashion, that's what Scorpio does. They get down and they do the dirty work. They, get down into the nitty gritty within ourselves and just, work on that knot, work through that muck to get down to what we have to unravel in our lives. So what is it that's tied? What is it that's, also, like I said, this is also on a grand scale. So what is tying humanity back from moving forward in some things? And we see this a lot in the United States with so much, back and forth, things that people aren't getting along. Everything is like either one side or the other side. There's that almost like that knot that they're trying to pull away. You see kind of like that Pisces where there's two fish trying to swim in opposite directions, but they're tied together. And that's kind of like what's going on, I feel, in the United States. There's a knot tying us together, but we're trying to get apart. And so you're either going to work that knot and separate, or you're going to work together. So I think that's, how are we going to work together to get our kites flying, to get our ideas soaring, to get things in action, maybe to get the government reopened. I think it might be, I'm not sure how that vote went last night. It was something, but it's things like that. It's like working together, maybe, understanding the other side that can, help us to move together instead of trying to pull apart from each other. The second kite is the same trine as the first kite, because they're both built off the same trine, but with Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces, and the new moon, Mercury in Scorpio. Again, water. This one, though, is topped off by Pluto in Aquarius. So we have Pluto and Aquarius down here. We have those two sextiles, and then the opposite, and then the opposite is with this one to Jupiter. So Jupiter's back here. We have the Saturn, and then we have the new moon, and that makes this grand kite. So Pluto and Jupiter are the ones that are in opposition in this kite. And that is showing when this does eventually take off, there will be huge transformations. Jupiter, huge, and to Pluto, transformational. This can be within yourself, again, personally, that once you work through or you work with your problems, you work your knot open, or you just stay bound together and you work together instead of one being one way and one being the other way. That's how you can then get momentum to move forward with your life's goals. And it can be also something that can really change all of us on a global scale, and really life as, we're used to living it, I think, maybe something's going to have to that's going to come up with that 3-eye atlas. Maybe it's going to be that, we never thought there was really aliens, but there really are aliens. So, who knows what it could be. That it's going to be that enlightening thing that's going to be like, holy crap, I gotta, change the way I think about all this. right now, I don't think that we're such ready for this radical change, renewal, revolution just yet. Again, we have so much promise, but the groundwork still being worked out, still being laid, reformatted, retrograde, reworked, and rewritten. So another personal example would be, say that you've always wanted to write, be a writer. So you think about writing a book, and this, great new moon to dig down, bring out those ideas. Mercury will be ending its retrograde phase at the 29th, so at the end of this month. So you can take that time with the waxing phase, with the waxing moon, to really uncover those ideas and those plans. And, in order to just put those into action and put those words on paper, to start typing things up. And we have the Gemini full moon coming up on December 6th, which really is all about, did we put the research in that we should have? Did we, do research into our own psyches? Did we look into ourselves enough? What research did we put in so that we know that what we're talking about is going to be factual, be right, be logical? So that's Gemini. Gemini wants to know all the truths. But that is the hard part, actually, because say you're writing a book and you think you know all about this one subject, not only do we have the moon in water, but an abundance of planets in water. So when you start thinking about this topic, perhaps it's, maybe I'm just talking about my life story or how I got into astrology or how I did this. And you start really looking into yourself. Because of all those watery planets, this could be just this bubbling up of emotions because you're opening up maybe some things that you've pushed down and you might have even kind of forgotten about. Venus also is in a water sign. It's in Scorpio. So we have tons, our personal planets are all in water signs, pretty much not Mars. And then all the outer planets are all in water, everything's just in water signs for the most part. So really affecting our emotions, really making us a lot of emotion, overly emotional almost. But again, you need to find what's tying you up, what's holding you back. If you are trying to write and things just aren't coming out, things aren't flowing, why is that? Why is it that you can't get these things out? Maybe even if it's in a relationship form, if it falls in that house in your chart, why is this relationship not working? Maybe why is it not progressing? Why are things at work not progressing? Why is it that I'm putting all into this, but I'm not getting anything back? That it just doesn't seem to be, my kite strings are just holding me back. I don't feel like I'm excelling. I don't feel like I'm being productive. Those Scorpio emotions, they get so deep and internalized that we have to face it and we have to deal with things, once and for all. And finally, once we deal with it, we can just poop it all out, whatever it is that is kind of holding us back, or whatever the bullshit is that's kind of stunting us from opening up, is the shit that isn't always easy to deal with. Again, so you want to work with this waxy moon to gain that courage, to put that work in, and be ready to really face it, and be really ready to be accepting. And this is why I say this is going to be a stop lying to yourself kind of a moon, because we're diving deep muddying up, going through that muck, trying to find things. And maybe we find that, maybe we didn't know everything after all about, maybe this wasn't the best idea as much as we want it. Because the new moon, again, opposite Uranus, these are difficult intellectual, psychological breakthroughs that we could be having. Depending on whatever it is, intellectually exposing the truth, your truth. This is about you and, practicality and logic to get you, on the right path that maybe you don't think you know what you really think you know. Maybe that's why you're not excelling at work. Maybe you thought there was more into your relationship than there actually was. Maybe because your mind wants you to think a certain way, but you have to come to a realization, okay, this is a bunch of bullshit. Oh, I took this job thinking I could do it, but it's way too much for me. Or, I'm trying to write this book on this subject that I don't really know that much about. So it's coming into reality with those hard truths about yourself that, just really, okay, well, maybe this isn't the subject, the job, the person that I need to do. Maybe it's something that we didn't believe in. Maybe, politically we didn't believe in certain things, but now that we keep seeing certain things, we have to start believing in it. And that could go either way. You can read into that however you want. Also, like the 3-eye atlas, didn't believe in aliens, but now things are coming out about this thing, this comet, that it's accelerating oddly, and so maybe there is something that's going to be like, oh my God, holy shit. So but you also could be exposed. You don't want to expose yourself as feeling stupid, as being, a fake, especially like, again, in your relationships, you try to make the relationship be this great thing. So you kind of maybe put a fake face on. And then when you come out who you really are, things don't work out. Same thing at work. If you took this job that you thought you could do, but it ends up being too much for you or something you're totally not interested in, stop faking it. Admit what isn't working. And, that's how you can grow through it. That's how you can grow to know what your limits are, what you can do, what you can't do, and focus on what you can do and move that direction and leave everything else behind. Maybe you want, again, that writing, say that writing is the outlet, but maybe it's doing YouTube, or maybe it's doing, TikTok videos, or maybe who knows what. Maybe the thought, again, was in relationships. So maybe the things just need to get tweaked a little bit. So maybe it's like, okay, well, I'm not a good writer, but I could talk and I'm going to do it that way instead. Or maybe, I'm not good on the phones at work, but I can do this instead, So, it's kind of that give and take or whatever, just kind of finding where your niche is, even though it might be hard and you might be a little bit embarrassed to admit it to yourself. But in truth, letting go is not letting you express your own creativity and actually getting the most out of yourself to be who you really are. So you want to be true to yourself in that way as well. So again, it could be like shifting and stifling a bit before you can kind of just figure it out and just like, I've tried to do this and it's not working and I'm just gonna just stop. So sometimes it's worth facing those harsh realities again and having those emotional breakthroughs. This is Scorpio, and Scorpio does like to keep their emotions in, unlike the other water signs who kind of let them show a little bit more. So that's why this could be exceptionally difficult kind of new moon, because of those really stirring up those emotions that you don't like to show, kind of letting them out, and just having a good cry maybe will just help a little bit with that. So look at that grand trine though, because we do have it with Jupiter and Saturn in there, and they are trying to each other, and that shows determination, it shows discipline, it shows a reality check that might not be so easy, but can be worth it in the end. So you want to confront those demons, confront those hard truths, and just learn to open your mind and maybe see things for what they really are and not just for what you want them to be. And maybe we'll learn a new way. Who knows? Think about what this means for you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to know where this falls in your chart, if you just put in the comments your birth time, place, and date, of course, I will give you a little like knowledge of where this is going to be and what part of your life it falls in based on what house it falls in your life. Whoop. That's my cat again. So again, please hit that like button and hit the subscribe button, because all your likes, your comments, and the new subscribers really help the channel to grow and get astrology out there for everyone. And I thank you all for checking in from time to time. I'm going to try and put out the best and most informative content, hopefully coming up, and some fun little shorts as well. So be sure to stay tuned, and I will see y'all soon. Bye.